lot of Americans are galled by the fact that the American worker is still struggling, and yet banks like yours are making a lot of money. Your compensation north of $20 million has been published in reports. Do you understand that frustration?
Sure. People have asked me about Occupy Wall Street, and I've said that surprisingly, if the average American has the right to say that the institutions of America let me down, and that's true. I think if the average American says that's predominantly Washington and Wall Street, broadly defined, I think that's true too. Washington and Wall Street, the epicenter, I blame both of them. I mean, there are a lot of policies and procedures. I think when you go beyond that and start to blame every single banker and every single politician, every single bank, no, it's not true. A lot of banks were a port in the storm. Not all the banks needed to be bailed out. A lot of them did things like Bear Stearns, WaMu, Wells Fargo bought Wachovia, and did everything to help, financing cities, states, hospitals. So that should be recognized too. But I understand that frustration. I understand the frustration in equity. I think the world, we become a little more inequitable. I don't think it's a good long-term thing for society, and therefore I'm in favor of progressive taxation. You can get into specifics exactly.
The Buffett rule,
well,
for instance.
I don't understand the Buffett rule exactly, but if you said
more taxes on capital gains.
Believe it or not, I think most people on Wall Street would be happy to pay, to have the Bush tax cut go away and pay higher capital gains if they thought it was part of a plan to fix everything. I do believe that. And that's why, in effect, attacking is not the right thing, because they're willing to do their part. Matter of fact, I think you should appeal to people's better nature and say, listen, you're well paid. You benefited from this great country. We need you to give a little bit more for now to help lift the country up. So anyway, I do understand the anger.
That's J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon. William Black, your response.
Well, first, they didn't make the world better off by acquiring Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual. They made themselves even more powerful and made it even more impossible to have them fail, and therefore vastly increased their political and their economic power. The proof of the pudding is what the big banks actually did, and the big banks lobbied to create the Gramm, Leach, Bliley Act, which repealed Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall had worked brilliantly. It separated commerce and investment, and it would have prohibited and prevented the losses that J.P. Morgan just suffered. They also, the big banks, pushed the Commodities Future Modernization Act. And if that act had not been passed, we would have avoided much of the entire financial crisis that we just went through, and we might well have avoided the $2 billion loss that J.P. Morgan has just suffered. The big banks fought tooth and nail and continue to fight tooth and nail to destroy the Volcker Rule, which, again, if the Volcker Rule had been in place with real regulations, would have prevented this loss. The big banks also fought tooth and nail the requirement that derivatives, when they did invest in them, that they do so in a transparent way through a clearinghouse, which also would have prevented this $2 billion loss. But that rule is not in effect because J.P. Morgan led the effort to delay the adoption of these rules and to weaken these rules so much that they're completely unenforceable.